The scent of jasmine and white roses clung to me, a sweet, heady perfume of anticipation. It was the eve of my wedding, and the air in my childhood bedroom, usually a sanctuary of quiet reflection, buzzed with an almost unbearable excitement. At 28 years old, I, Gwen, believed my life was perfectly mapped out, every detail meticulously planned, every dream within reach. My dress, a cascade of ivory lace and silk, hung like a silent promise on the back of the door. The wedding rings, nestled in a velvet box, seemed to pulse with a gentle golden light. My fiancé, Ethan, was the charismatic, charming counterpoint to my more grounded nature. A brilliant but somewhat unreliable graphic designer, he brought a vibrant, spontaneous energy into my life that I cherished. He was all grand gestures and sweeping declarations, a whirlwind of creative chaos that I, the methodical planner, found oddly exhilarating. We balanced each other, I thought. I was the anchor, he was the sail. And tomorrow, we were supposed to embark on our greatest adventure together. The rehearsal dinner had been a joyous blur of toasts, laughter, and teary-eyed speeches. Our families, large and boisterous, had blended seamlessly, a testament to the love Ethan and I shared. My mother, usually a whirlwind of nervous energy, had even seemed relaxed, her eyes shining with pride. Ethan had held my hand under the table, his thumb tracing lazy circles on my skin, his eyes promising forever. I truly believed him, believed in us. I drifted off to sleep, serenaded by the distant hum of the city and the sweet dreams of my impending future. I dreamt of walking down the aisle, bathed in sunlight, seeing Ethan's face light up. I dreamt of our first dance as husband and wife, of a lifetime of shared moments. The world felt perfectly aligned, every star in its rightful place. But the dawn, when it broke, was not the golden promise of my dreams. It was a cold, harsh, unforgiving light. My alarm, set for 6 a.m. to allow ample time for pre-wedding pampering, rang cheerfully. I reached for my phone, my fingers brushing against a new notification. A text message. Not from Ethan as I expected, a last-minute "I love you, can't wait." This one was from his sister, Sarah. "Gwen, are you awake? Call me. Now." The urgency in the text sent a jolt of unease through me. Sarah wasn't one for dramatics. I dialed her number, my heart beginning a slow, heavy thud. "Sarah? What is it? Is everything okay?" I tried to keep my voice light, but a cold knot of dread was forming in my stomach. Her voice on the other end was choked, strained. "Gwen, oh God, Gwen, I don't know how to tell you this." She took a shuddering breath. "It's Ethan. He's gone." Gone? What did she mean, gone? Had he had a bachelor party gone wrong? A last-minute cold feet panic? My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation for her frantic tone. "What do you mean, gone? Gone where? Is he okay?" "No, Gwen, he's not coming back. He left a note, for his parents, for you." Sarah's voice broke. He eloped." The word hung in the air, a cruel, mocking echo. Elope. It was a word from romantic comedies, not from the eve of my meticulously planned traditional wedding. My breath caught in my throat. My vision swam. "Elope?" I whispered, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "With who?" "That's ridiculous. We're getting married today." "He ran off with Tiffany," Sarah choked out. "His old art school friend. The one he worked on that big project with last year. They've been seeing each other for months, Gwen. It's all in the note. He said he couldn't go through with it. He said he loved her." The world shattered. Not just my meticulously planned wedding, but my entire reality. Ethan. My fiancé. The man who had promised me forever. He had been living a lie. A secret lover. A double life. And he had chosen to expose it, not with courage, but with cowardice, fleeing like a thief in the night. I collapsed onto the edge of my bed, the white lace of my wedding dress still hanging like a silent accusation. My hands flew to my mouth, trying to stifle the scream that clawed its way up my throat. Utterly heartbroken, humiliated. The words were inadequate to describe the searing pain that consumed me. Every loving glance, every shared laugh, every future plan, all twisted into a grotesque mockery. My mother, hearing Sarah's frantic voice from the phone, rushed in, her face pale. She snatched the phone from my trembling hand, listening to Sarah, her own eyes widening in horror. "No, oh no, my poor Gwen, that despicable man!" The house, moments ago a hive of joyful anticipation, descended into a maelstrom of shock, grief, and frantic phone calls. Parents, bridesmaids, caterers, the officiant. The news spread like wildfire, leaving a trail of disbelief and pity in its wake. The dress, the rings, the perfectly set reception hall, all now monuments to my public shame. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, suffocating. I locked myself in my bathroom, the cool tiles a stark contrast to the burning inferno in my chest. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, searching for the hopeful bride from last night, but all I saw was a ghost. A humiliated, betrayed ghost. My head spun. The morning sickness, which I had attributed to wedding stress, hit me with a new, terrifying intensity. My stomach churned, and I stumbled to the toilet, retching until my muscles ached. As I leaned against the cold porcelain, gasping for breath, another, far more profound realization slammed into me. The missed periods, the strange cravings, the constant fatigue I had brushed off as pre-wedding jitters. Oh, God. With trembling hands, I reached into the cupboard. A forgotten box, a pregnancy test. I knew with a chilling certainty what the result would be before I even performed the test. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped it. The 2 pink lines appeared almost immediately, stark against the white background. Unmistakable. Undeniable. My dreams lay in ruins, not just the dream of a perfect wedding, a perfect life with Ethan, but now the terrifying reality of a broken dream, a shattered future, and a secret growing inside me. I was pregnant with Ethan's child. The man who had abandoned me at the altar, who had run off with another woman, had left me with this, the ultimate undeniable consequence of his betrayal. The tears that streamed down my face were no longer just from heartbreak and humiliation. They were tears of utter despair, of terrifying uncertainty. How could I face anyone? How could I raise a child, alone, conceived in a betrayal so profound it felt like a nightmare? My perfectly mapped-out life had not just veered off course, it had exploded. And I was left picking up the pieces, shattered and alone, with a life growing inside me that was both a miracle and a terrifying burden. My future, once so clear, was now a vast, terrifying abyss. The world felt like a fractured kaleidoscope, each shard a painful memory of Ethan. I huddled in my bedroom, the scent of jasmine now sickening, the white dress on its hanger a cruel joke. My mother's gentle knocking went unanswered. The humiliation was a physical ache, rivaled only by the growing terror of the life within me, pregnant, abandoned, alone. Then a quiet tap at the door. Not my mother's anxious rap, but something softer, more hesitant. "Gwen? It's Liam." Liam, Ethan's cousin. My stomach clenched. Liam was Ethan's opposite in every conceivable way. Where Ethan was flashy and loud, Liam was quiet and introspective. Ethan was a whirlwind of unpredictable charm. Liam was steady, reliable, almost boring. He was a software architect, solid and grounded, precisely what Ethan was not. I hadn't seen much of him since college, where he'd always been a polite, unassuming presence in our larger friend group. "Go away, Liam," I mumbled, my voice thick with unshed tears. I can't see anyone." The door creaked open, just a sliver. "Please, Gwen, just 5 minutes. I promise." His voice was low, earnest, devoid of pity or judgment. Just quiet concern. Reluctantly, I pushed myself up, wiping the tears from my face. He stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed as always, but his face was etched with genuine sadness. His eyes, usually hidden behind conservative frames, were filled with a raw, almost desperate tenderness that surprised me. He stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. The air in the room, thick with my despair, seemed to lighten, just a fraction. He didn't try to hug me, didn't offer empty platitudes. He just sat on the edge of the chair, looking at me with an intensity that made me feel seen. "I heard," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "about Ethan, about everything." He hesitated, clearly searching for the right words. "I'm so sorry, Gwen. You don't deserve any of this." I managed a choked laugh, bitter and humorless. "Don't I? What did I do to deserve this, Liam? What kind of idiot gets left at the altar? Pregnant?" The last word slipped out, a raw confession I hadn't intended. Liam's eyes widened, a flicker of something unreadable passing through them, but his expression softened further, if that was possible. He reached out, slowly, tentatively, and took my trembling hand. His touch was warm, steady, surprisingly comforting. "Gwen," he said, his voice husky with emotion, "I know this is probably the worst time, and what I'm about to say might sound insane. But I need to say it. I can't stand by and watch you crumble." He took a deep breath, his grip on my hand tightening. I've been in love with you, Gwen." Since college, my mind, already reeling, stuttered to a halt. Liam? In love with me? The quiet, studious cousin, always in Ethan's shadow? It was so unexpected, so utterly out of left field, it felt like another punch to the gut. "What?" I whispered, pulling my hand away. "Liam, stop. This isn't funny. This isn't the time for jokes." "It's not a joke," he insisted, his gaze unwavering. "Never has been. I watched you with Ethan all those years, wished it was me. I know he's charming, but he's reckless, and you deserve someone steady, someone who will cherish you, who will never leave you." He paused, then took another deep breath, his next words the bravest he had ever uttered. "Marry me, Gwen." My head snapped up. I stared at him, sure I hadn't heard correctly. "What did you say?" "Marry me," he repeated, his voice gaining strength, conviction. "Let me be your husband. Let me be the father to your child. I know it's Ethan's baby, but I swear to you, Gwen, I will raise this child as my own. I will love them. I will love you. And I will protect you both, fiercely, for the rest of my life." The room seemed to spin. The absurdity of it, the audacity, yet beneath the shock, there was a strange, undeniable flicker of hope. He wasn't proposing out of pity. His eyes, his voice, his steady hand, they radiated a genuine tenderness, a deep, unwavering sincerity that was so starkly different from Ethan's fleeting charm. "Liam, you're crazy," I finally managed, my voice raw. You can't just step in like this. What about my family? Your family? What will people say? And the baby. This is Ethan's baby. You can't just erase that." "People will say what they want," he said, his gaze firm. "But we'll know the truth. We'll build our own truth. As for the baby, I meant what I said. Blood doesn't make a father, Gwen. Love does. Commitment does. And I am committed to you and to this child 100%. He rose from the chair and knelt before me, taking both my hands in his. His eyes, earnest and pleading, searched mine. "I'm not Ethan, Gwen. I know that. But I can promise you stability, security, unconditional love. Let me be the man who stands by you. Let me protect you from all of this. Please, say yes." I looked at his face, so earnest, so vulnerable yet so strong. The whirlwind of emotions inside me, grief, humiliation, terror, clashed with a burgeoning, unbelievable sense of hope. He was offering me a lifeline in my darkest hour, a way out of the public shame, a father for my child, a partner who seemed genuinely devoted. It was a bizarre, unconventional solution, born of catastrophe, but his unwavering sincerity was a beacon in my profound vulnerability. Every logical part of my brain screamed caution. This was too fast, too desperate, too convenient. But my heart, bruised and broken, yearned for the promise of safety, of a steadfast presence. Liam wasn't impulsive. He wasn't reckless. He was solid. He was kind. After what felt like an eternity, I looked at the sincerity in his eyes, at the steady strength in his grip. I thought of the future stretching before me, a single mother, facing public scrutiny, raising a child alone. And then I thought of Liam, quiet, steady Liam, offering to shoulder that burden with me, to share his life, his name, his love. A hesitant, shaky breath escaped me. "Okay," I whispered, the word barely audible. "Okay, Liam, I'll marry you." A flicker of pure relief, then immense joy, lit up his face. He gently squeezed my hands, then rose and pulled me into a soft, comforting embrace. It wasn't a passionate kiss, not yet. It was a promise, a silent vow of protection and devotion. Within hours, the whirlwind began. Liam, with surprising efficiency, took charge. He called both families, explaining the sudden change of plans with a carefully crafted narrative about Ethan's nervous breakdown and his decision to step up and marry me, the woman he had always deeply admired. My parents, devastated but pragmatic, clung to the semblance of normalcy, to the idea that their daughter wouldn't be publicly disgraced. Ethan's parents, equally shocked and humiliated by their son's actions, seemed to accept Liam's offer with a mixture of relief and bewildered gratitude. The truth, in all its ugly detail, was carefully omitted. The wedding, hastily rearranged for 2 days later, was a quiet affair. No grand church, no elaborate reception. Just a small ceremony in Liam's family's garden, attended by immediate family. I wore a simple white dress my mother had retrieved from a closet, not the original lace gown. Liam wore a classic dark suit. As I walked down the aisle, my arm linked with my father's, I saw Liam waiting, his eyes fixed on me, a steady, comforting presence. There was no grand fanfare, no overwhelming joy like I had once envisioned. Just a quiet sense of inevitability. I was marrying a man I respected, a man who offered me security and kindness, a man who, against all odds, seemed truly devoted to me and the child I carried. We exchanged vows that felt both strange and deeply significant. The officiant spoke of love, commitment, and partnership. I looked at Liam, his hand warm in mine, and tried to believe in the future he was so steadfastly offering. It wasn't the love story I had planned, but it was a beginning, a desperate, unlikely, but undeniably sincere new beginning. I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong. The ink on our marriage certificate was barely dry when Liam, my new husband, revealed a truth that would shake the very foundations of my fragile, newfound peace. A truth that would make me question everything I thought I knew about him, about love, and about the nature of devotion itself. The ink on our marriage certificate was barely dry, a fragile promise against the backdrop of so much chaos. Our small, hastily arranged wedding had been a blur of quiet vows and strained smiles. I was Liam's wife, mother to a child no one yet knew about, and still reeling from the betrayal of the man who was supposed to be my husband. I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong. Liam, my new husband, was everything Ethan wasn't. Steady, thoughtful, and meticulously organized. He handled everything with a quiet competence that was both comforting and, I would soon discover, unnerving. He arranged for my few belongings to be moved into his spacious, minimalist condo, a place of clean lines and functional design, so different from the cozy clutter of my old apartment. He navigated the awkward conversations with our families with a calm assurance that both impressed and slightly intimidated me. He was a rock, unwavering in a storm that had capsized my life. A few days after the wedding, as the last of the moving boxes were tucked away, Liam suggested we have a quiet dinner. Just the two of us. He cooked. A surprisingly delicious homemade pasta dish, served with a bottle of a rich red wine. The city lights twinkled beyond his floor-to-ceiling windows, creating an almost romantic ambiance. For a moment, I allowed myself to relax, to hope that this unlikely new chapter might actually lead to something good. Then, as he poured us more wine, he cleared his throat. "Gwen," he began, his voice soft, almost hesitant, a stark contrast to his usual assured tone. There's something I need to tell you. Something important. My heart gave a little lurch. I braced myself. Was he having second thoughts? Was he going to regret his spontaneous, life-altering decision? He set the wine bottle down, his gaze fixed on mine, steady and unwavering, but with a new, unsettling intensity. "It's about Ethan," he said, and my stomach plummeted. Always Ethan. "What about him?" I asked, my voice tight. "Did he call? Does he want—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. Liam shook his head slowly. "This is different. You remember Tiffany, his art school friend?" I nodded, a bitter taste in my mouth. "His secret lover, you mean? The one he ran off with?" "Right." Liam took a slow sip of his wine, his eyes seeming to hold 1,000 unspoken thoughts. "Well, I knew about them. Not for months, like Sarah thought, but I started to suspect something a few weeks before the wedding." My breath hitched. "You knew?" The word was a whisper of betrayal, of shock. "And you didn't say anything?" He put his glass down carefully. "Gwen, please, let me explain. Ethan? He's always been reckless. Charming, yes, but he leaves a trail of broken promises everywhere he goes. I've seen it my whole life, with friends, with business deals, with other girls before you." My mind raced back, trying to recall any hints, any red flags I might have missed. Ethan's late nights, his sudden mood swings, the vague excuses. I had always dismissed them, blinded by my love and the excitement of our impending marriage. "I started digging," Liam continued, his voice low, almost confessional. "It's what I do. I'm a software architect, yes, but I also dabble in cybersecurity. I noticed some unusual patterns in Ethan's digital footprint, things that didn't quite add up with his usual habits. And then I found them." My blood ran cold. "Found what?" He looked me straight in the eye. "Incriminating messages between Ethan and Tiffany, not just flirtatious, explicit, plans to run away, discussions about how to keep it secret from you until the very last minute. They were planning to leave the day after the wedding, once he had access to the wedding gifts, I suppose." A wave of nausea washed over me. Not just the physical sickness of early pregnancy, but a profound, sickening disgust. He wasn't just leaving me at the altar, he was planning to exploit me, to steal our wedding money before running off. "But he left the night before," I said, trying to make sense of this new, uglier betrayal. "He didn't wait." Liam nodded, a grin set to his jaw. He didn't. Because I made sure he didn't." My heart hammered against my ribs. "What do you mean you made sure?" He took a deep breath. "I subtly leaked those incriminating messages to Ethan himself." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at him, utterly stunned. The quiet, gentle, steadfast man I had married had just confessed to a calculated act of sabotage. He had, indirectly, orchestrated Ethan's panicked flight. He had pushed Ethan to abandon me sooner, more dramatically, more humiliatingly. My mind raced, struggling to reconcile this calculating side with the kind man I had married, the man who had offered me solace, who had sworn to protect me. Was this protection, or was this manipulation? The cold, logical part of my brain, the part that appreciated his strategic brilliance, was at war with the emotional, wounded part that felt a fresh wave of betrayal. You set him up?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You made him abandon me publicly? You knew he was going to leave me anyway, but you made sure it happened now, in the most humiliating way possible?" Liam didn't flinch. His gaze remained steady. "Yes," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I did. Because I couldn't bear the alternative, Gwen. Knowing him, knowing how he operates, he would have dragged you through a much longer, more painful public spectacle. He would have drained your resources, humiliated you, and then left you when it suited him. This way it was sharp, painful, yes, but clean. And it happened before you invested any more of your future or your dignity into him." He reached across the table, taking my hand again. "I know it sounds ruthless, And it was. But I did it for you, Gwen. I truly believe it was the lesser of two evils. He was going to break your heart no matter what. I just made sure he broke it quickly before he could do any more damage. I pulled my hand away, my mind reeling. The implications of his confession were vast. He hadn't just appeared as my white knight, he had engineered the crisis. He had been lurking in the shadows, observing, planning. "And the wedding?" I asked, my voice trembling. "How did you convince our families, both sets, to go along with this charade? To let you just step in like that?" Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "That was complex. After Ethan fled, the news spread like wildfire. Your parents were devastated, concerned about your reputation. My parents were mortified by Ethan's actions, worried about the family name. I approached both sets separately once the initial shock had worn off." He leaned back, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk touching his lips. I laid out the facts. Ethan's history of irresponsibility, his recent recklessness, the undeniable evidence of his affair. I emphasized your vulnerability, your immediate need for stability, for protection from public scandal. I painted myself as the logical solution, a trusted family member, someone who could offer a quick, quiet resolution, saving face for both families. "I told them," he continued, his eyes gleaming with a calculating intelligence I had never seen before, "that a quiet wedding, with me, would prevent the story from becoming a prolonged, messy public spectacle. It would show strength, resolve, and it would secure your future and that of the child you were expecting, without needing to delve into details right away." My stomach dropped. He knew about the baby. He knew before I even had a chance to tell him. He had integrated that into his meticulously crafted plan. "You revealed my pregnancy?" I whispered, my voice thick with disbelief. "Not explicitly," he corrected, "but I alluded to it, enough for them to understand the urgency, enough for them to see my proposal as the only viable solution to an escalating disaster. I appealed to their sense of propriety, their desire to avoid scandal, and their love for you, Gwen. They saw it as the quickest, cleanest way to resolve a deeply embarrassing situation." I was utterly stunned. My jaw felt slack. The kind, gentle Liam, the unassuming software architect, was a master manipulator, a strategic chess player. He had moved all the pieces on the board with chilling precision, orchestrating not just Ethan's departure, but also my hurried, unconventional marriage. It was a love story born of lies, manipulation, and a calculated rescue. I stared at him, trying to reconcile this calculating strategist with the man who had offered me a warm embrace, who had sworn to cherish me. He had used my heartbreak, my vulnerability, my hidden pregnancy, as leverage in his grand design. A coldness settled over me, replacing the warmth I had just begun to feel. This wasn't just about Ethan's betrayal anymore. This was about Liam's secret campaign, his patient waiting, his ruthless execution. How could I trust him now? How could I be with a man who had orchestrated such a complex deception, no matter his stated intentions? "So, you didn't just fall in love with me," I said, my voice flat. "You engineered a situation where I would have no choice but to fall into your arms." Liam sighed, a hint of weariness entering his voice. "Gwen, it's not that simple. I am in love with you. I have been for years. I saw Ethan for what he was, and it tore me apart to see you with him. I saw how he treated others, how he lived his life. I couldn't stand by and watch him destroy you." He reached for my hand again, his touch gentle, pleading. My actions were extreme, I know, but they came from a place of genuine love and a desire to protect you from a much worse fate. He wasn't going to change Gwen. He was going to hurt you more profoundly than he already did. I simply accelerated the inevitable, and then I stepped in to pick up the pieces because I wanted to be the one to do it, because I wanted to be your husband. I pulled my hand away again, standing up abruptly. The room felt stifling. My head throbbed. I needed air. I needed space. The man I had married, the man who had saved me, was a stranger, a benevolent manipulator. The complexity of it all was overwhelming. My life, which had just begun to find a fragile new order, was once again thrown into disarray. I walked to the window, staring out at the dazzling, uncaring city lights. I had escaped one betrayal only to find myself in the embrace of another, albeit one cloaked in good intentions. Could I truly build a life, raise a child, with a man capable of such calculated deception, even if it was for my own good? My mind was a battlefield, struggling to reconcile the gentle savior with the ruthless strategist. The woman who had just married him was utterly stunned, struggling to reconcile this calculating side with the kind man she had married. The true beginning of our marriage was not on the altar, but here, in the harsh glare of an unexpected, shocking confession. I stood by the window, staring out at the dazzling city lights, the vibrant pulse of New York mocking the turmoil in my soul. Liam's confession, his calculated manipulation of Ethan's departure, his strategic orchestrating of our wedding, echoed in my mind. He'd confessed to a ruthless brilliance I never suspected, all for my own good. Could I trust him? Could I love him, this man who had woven such a complex web to ensnare me, even if it was with threads of devotion? Liam, sensing my profound shock and withdrawal, didn't push. He gave me space, a quiet respect that paradoxically began to chip away at my anger. He moved about the condo with his usual quiet efficiency, but his eyes constantly sought mine, filled with a raw vulnerability I hadn't seen before. Later that night, and over the next few days, he confessed further, not with the cold precision of a strategist, but with the heartfelt earnestness of a man bearing his soul. He sat across from me, no longer at the dining table, but on the living room couch, the city lights softened by the gathering dusk. "Gwen," he began, his voice soft, almost pleading, "I know what I did was extreme. I know it seems unforgivable, but I need you to understand why." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Ethan isn't just charming, Gwen. He's a predator, a serial charmer, who thrives on adoration and then discards women when they become inconvenient. I've seen his pattern of charming and then abandoning numerous women since college. Casual flings, serious relationships, even an engagement that lasted all of 3 weeks once he got cold feet and fled town. He's a master at making women feel special, unique, irreplaceable. And then he leaves them utterly shattered, usually after draining them emotionally and sometimes financially." My stomach tightened. I thought back to some of Ethan's past relationships, women who had vanished from his life almost as quickly as they appeared, leaving behind whispers of heartbreak. I had always dismissed it, telling myself Ethan just hadn't found the one yet. Until me. I tried to warn him before, Liam continued, his voice tinged with a deep sadness. "I saw him pulling away from you months ago. The late nights, the excuses, the way he looked at his phone. I even tried to subtly hint to you, to express my concerns about his reliability, but you were so in love. I knew he was building up to a grand exit, just like he always does. But with you being pregnant, I couldn't bear to see you suffer the same fate, or worse." His voice cracked slightly. He would have waited until after the wedding, collected the gifts, and then probably disappeared with Tiffany, leaving you publicly humiliated, destitute, and facing a pregnancy completely alone, with no recourse. "I couldn't let that happen to you, Gwen. I truly couldn't." He looked at me, his eyes pleading for understanding. His actions, while manipulative, stemmed from a deep, protective love. I sat in silence, processing his words. The bitterness in my mouth began to lessen, replaced by a strange, unsettling clarity. Was his manipulative behavior born of malice, or of a twisted, desperate form of devotion? Could it be both? The sheer audacity of his plan was still breathtaking, but his genuine pain, his raw honesty in revealing his long-held feelings, chipped away at my anger. Over the several days that followed, I wrestled with this complex revelation. I retreated into myself, trying to untangle the knotted emotions within me. Liam, true to his word, gave me space. He didn't push, didn't demand. He brought me my favorite tea, left books on my nightstand, and simply existed, a quiet, unwavering presence in the apartment. And then, the morning sickness worsened. The fatigue became overwhelming. My body was changing, undeniably. I was pregnant, with Ethan's child, a stark, undeniable reality that needed a steady hand, a reliable presence. And Liam, despite his shocking confession, was precisely that. He kept the fridge stocked with my strange cravings, reminded me to take my prenatal vitamins, and instinctively rubbed my back when the nausea hit. His genuine care throughout my pregnancy was undeniable, not forced or perfunctory, but deeply intuitive. He talked to my parents, calming their lingering anxieties. He handled the few sympathetic but pointed questions from distant relatives with grace, deflecting their curiosity about the sudden wedding. He became my shield, my anchor, navigating the choppy waters of my new reality with a quiet competence that slowly began to dismantle my reservations. One evening, about a month after our wedding, I found him sitting alone in the living room, staring out at the city lights. He looked tired, vulnerable. I sat beside him. "Liam," I said softly, "why didn't you just tell me about Ethan earlier?" Before it came to this. He turned to me, his eyes full of regret. "I tried, Gwen, in subtle ways. I hinted at his unreliability, his past. But you wouldn't have believed me. You loved him. If I had come to you with screenshots and accusations, you would have seen me as the jealous cousin, trying to sabotage your happiness, and then he would have twisted it, manipulated you against me. I knew that. I knew the only way to save you was to make him expose himself, and then step in." He sighed. "It was the only way I could think to truly protect you and selfishly to finally have a chance with you. I know that's not an excuse, but it's the truth." His honesty, raw and unvarnished, resonated with a new kind of truth. His manipulative actions, while morally gray, had stemmed from a deep, desperate love, a desire to protect me from further, deeper pain. He wasn't perfect, he was complex. But he was here. He was steadfast. My heart, which had been so guarded, so hurt, found itself softening. I looked at the quiet strength in his profile, the unwavering devotion in his eyes whenever he looked at me, and I realized something profound. Ethan's love was a flashy performance, a dazzling light that blinded me to his true nature. Liam's love was a quiet, sturdy foundation, built not on empty promises, but on consistent action, even if those actions were unorthodox. I began accepting the complex man I had married. He wasn't a white knight without flaws, but a deeply flawed, fiercely protective human being. The pregnancy progressed. Each week the tiny life within me grew, a testament to a future that, against all odds, seemed to be taking shape. Liam was an incredible support. He came to every prenatal appointment, asked insightful questions, and read every pregnancy book I bought. He rubbed my aching back, brought me midnight snacks, and spoke to my growing belly with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. He was already a father, in every sense that mattered. Then, one warm spring morning, after a surprisingly quick labor, I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. She was tiny, perfect, with a shock of dark hair and Ethan's charming dimple, but with Liam's calm, discerning eyes. We named her Aurora, for the dawn after a long, dark night. Holding her for the first time, all the pain, all the doubt, all the anger seemed to melt away. Liam was right there, his face streaked with tears, his hand gently touching Aurora's tiny head. He looked at her with such boundless love, a devotion that transcended biology. In that moment, watching him, I knew I had made the right choice. My love for him, born of necessity and circumstance, now began to bloom, slowly but surely, into something real and profound. We were a family, an unconventional one perhaps, but a family nonetheless. Our new family found its rhythm, a symphony of baby giggles, Liam's quiet presence, and the comforting predictability of our days. Aurora, our beautiful daughter, was the sun around which our world revolved. Liam was an extraordinary father, patient and engaged, balancing his demanding career as a software architect with effortless grace. Our elegant condo, once a minimalist haven, now vibrated with the joyful chaos of baby toys and gurgling laughter, truly transforming into a home. I had finally found a peace I never thought possible, a fragile, hard-won stability. But just as we settled into this tranquil new chapter, the past, like a ghost, decided to make a dramatic, unwelcome reappearance. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning, an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer. "Gwen, it's Ethan." My blood ran cold. His voice, once so charming and familiar, now grated on my ears. It was tinged with a false nonchalance, a manipulative ease that instantly raised my hackles. My stomach churned, a mixture of dread and residual anger. "What do you want, Ethan?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Whoa. Easy there, Gwen," he chuckled, that same condescending laugh that used to charm me. "Just calling to check in. Heard you tied the knot. Congrats, I guess. And heard you had a baby." My grip on the phone tightened. He knew. Of course, he knew. News travels fast in our social circles, even if we had tried to keep things quiet. "What about it?" "Well," he said, a casual arrogance creeping into his tone. "We both know that's my kid, don't we? I mean, I may have bolted, but genetics don't lie. I'm back in town, and I think it's time I got to know my daughter." My heart pounded. The audacity. He had abandoned me, left me heartbroken and humiliated, pregnant and alone. He'd run off with his secret lover, presumably living a carefree life. And now, months later, after Tiffany had, according to the whispers I'd heard, run into some serious legal trouble of her own, he expected to simply waltz back in and claim a place in our perfectly constructed family. He had the nerve to demand access to a child he had callously disowned before she was even born. I felt a surge of pure, primal rage. "You forfeited that right, Ethan, the moment you disappeared the night before our wedding," I snarled, my voice shaking. "You left a pregnant woman at the altar. You have no claim here, not on me and certainly not on Aurora." Now, Gwen, let's be reasonable," he countered, his voice suddenly hardening, a hint of steel beneath the charm. "I'm a good guy deep down. I made a mistake, but I'm ready to be a father now. I have rights, and if you don't play ball, I'll take this to court. You know I can be very persuasive, and I have money now too." I slammed the phone down, my hand trembling. The very air around me seemed to vibrate with his toxic presence. This wasn't just a casual request, it was a threat, a declaration of war. He was going to try to rip our family apart. I told Liam everything. He listened, his face grim, his jaw tight. When I finished, he simply nodded, a steely glint in his eyes. "He won't win, Gwen," he said, his voice quiet but absolutely firm. "He won't touch our daughter." And then Liam, my brilliant, complicated husband, went to work. This was the side of him I had glimpsed during his shocking confession. The strategic mind I now understood was capable of astonishing things. He didn't resort to petty arguments or emotional pleas. He leveraged his keen intellect, legal expertise, and considerable family resources, all the quiet power he possessed, to build an impenetrable fortress around our family. He moved with a quiet, devastating efficiency that left me in awe. He consulted with the best family lawyers in the city, the kind who rarely took cases unless they were ironclad. He meticulously documented every detail of Ethan's past, his history of abandoning relationships, his erratic behavior, his financial instability. Even with newfound money, he was still prone to reckless spending. Liam used his background in cybersecurity to gather evidence of Ethan's communication leading up to the elopement, the proof of his premeditated abandonment. He even had a private investigator subtly confirm Ethan's current lack of stable employment and his tendency to gravitate towards questionable associates. The court battle, when it inevitably came, was swift and brutal, but entirely one-sided. Ethan, with his flashy lawyer and arrogant demeanor, quickly found himself outmatched by Liam's strategic planning and financial power. Liam didn't just counter Ethan's claims, He dismantled them, piece by meticulous piece. He presented a mountain of irrefutable evidence proving Ethan's complete abandonment and neglect. He highlighted Ethan's utter lack of care for me during my vulnerable pregnancy, his deliberate act of public humiliation, and his long-standing pattern of irresponsibility. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a keen eye for character, saw through Ethan's superficial charm. She saw a man who only wanted to claim a child when it suited him, when it might add a veneer of respectability or simply serve as a new plaything. Liam, on the other hand, presented himself not as a biological father, but as the steadfast, loving, and entirely capable parent who had been there from day one. He articulated his commitment, his plans for Aurora's future, his deep love for her. The verdict was a quiet, resounding victory. Ethan quickly lost all legal claims to Aurora. The judge's ruling was unequivocal. Given his past actions and documented irresponsibility, Ethan was deemed unfit to have parental rights. His own child was no longer recognized as his, legally or morally. He left the courtroom, his face a mask of disbelief and sputtering rage. Finally defeated, we never heard from him again. The air in our home finally felt truly clear, truly peaceful. The threat was gone. The dark cloud of Ethan's betrayal and his desperate attempts to re-enter our lives had vanished. Thanks to Liam's quiet strength and unwavering protection, my life with Liam blossomed into a profound happiness I never knew was possible. He was everything I needed, everything I never knew I deserved. Our love, born from such unlikely and painful circumstances, grew deeper with each passing day. It wasn't the fiery, passionate romance of my youth, but something far more enduring, more profound. It was built on trust, respect, and a quiet, steadfast devotion that was utterly unshakable. I learned so much from this tumultuous journey. I learned that love can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. It doesn't always follow a fairy tale script. Sometimes it's forged in the fires of adversity, in the quiet, consistent presence of someone who chooses to stand by you when no one else will. I learned that true devotion often lies beneath a quiet exterior. Ethan was flashy and loud, but his charm was hollow. Liam, with his unassuming demeanor and his brilliant, strategic mind, proved to be the most devoted, fierce protector I could have ever wished for. His love wasn't a performance, it was a deep, unyielding commitment. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that genuine security comes from a partner's steadfast integrity, even if their path to you was unconventional. Liam's methods were unorthodox, even manipulative in their precision, but his underlying intention was pure, to protect me and our child. He had risked everything, even my scorn, to save me from a greater pain. That, I realized, was a profound integrity all its own. I found profound happiness living peacefully with Liam and their daughter. Our days were filled with Aurora's laughter, family dinners, and the comforting quiet of shared moments. I built a new life, stronger and more resilient than the one I had so meticulously planned. I found joy in Liam's quiet companionship, in his unwavering support, and in the boundless love we both shared for our daughter. My story, once one of devastating betrayal, had become a testament to unexpected love, unwavering commitment, and the power of finding true security in the most unlikely of places. And so, Gwen's journey, from unexpected betrayal to a surprising second chance at love and family, comes to a fulfilling close. Her story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest blessings arrive in the most unexpected packages, and true love often reveals itself not in grand gestures, but in quiet, unwavering steadfastness. If Gwen's strength, Liam's unconventional devotion, and their journey to a unique family resonated with you, if their story inspired you to look beyond the obvious for true connection, please consider giving this story a like. Your support helps us share narratives that explore the depth of human relationships and the paths less traveled. For more captivating stories about intricate relationships, unexpected twists of fate, and characters who find love in surprising ways, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We genuinely invite you to comment below with your thoughts on Liam's controversial actions, your own experiences with unconventional love stories, or any insights this tale may have sparked within you. We truly value your feedback and appreciate every single comment. Thank you for joining us on Gwen's journey to her unexpected happily ever after. We look forward to connecting with you again.